Every single person watching this video right now, you have dreams. Maybe it's starting your own business, maybe it's traveling the world, maybe it's giving your family a better life than you had. But here's the painful truth. Most people will never live their dreams. Not because they aren't talented, not because they aren't capable, but because they don't have the mindset. What separates billionaires from the rest of the world isn't just their money, it's their philosophy. It's the words they choose to live by every single day, in moments of doubt, in moments of fear, and in moments of opportunity. Think about it. Elon Musk was told he was crazy for wanting to send rockets into space. Jeff Bezos was laughed at for selling books online. Oprah Winfrey was fired from her first job because her boss thought she wasn't fit for television. But what do all of them have in common? They lived by principles, guiding quotes that pushed them forward when the world told them to stop. Now, let me ask you something. What words are you living by? Because whether you realize it or not, your life is being shaped by the thoughts in your mind and the beliefs you repeat to yourself every single day. If you keep telling yourself, "I can't do it," or "It's too late for me," you're writing the script of your future failure. But if you start adopting the mindset of those who've already climbed the mountain of success, you'll begin to think, act, and create like them. That's why, in this video, I'm going to share with you 10 quotes that billionaires live by. These aren't just motivational slogans you find on Instagram. These are real words, backed by real action, and lived out by the most successful people on earth. Imagine if, every time you faced a challenge, you had Elon Musk whispering in your ear, "When something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor." Imagine if you heard Warren Buffett reminding you, "It takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it." How differently would you approach your day? How much harder would you fight for your dreams? But here's the catch. I don't just want you to listen to these quotes and nod your head. I want you to adopt them. I want you to tattoo them in your mind, to repeat them until they become second nature, until they guide your decisions the way they guide billionaires. Before we dive in, I need one thing from you. If you're watching this right now and you know deep down that you're meant for more, then pause this video for a moment, hit that subscribe button, and join our community of dreamers and achievers, because every single week we bring you the knowledge, the mindset, and the tools to build the life you deserve. Don't just be a spectator, be part of this journey. Now, let's begin with the first quote. And trust me, it might change the way you see your entire life. Quote 1. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Steve Jobs. When Steve Jobs stood on stage at Stanford in 2005 and delivered his now famous commencement speech, he didn't talk about profit margins or technology specs. He talked about time. He talked about the reality that every one of us will die and that truth should be the compass guiding our lives. Think about it. Time is the one resource you can never get back. You can lose money and earn it again. You can lose relationships and rebuild them. You can lose opportunities and create new ones. But time, once it's gone forever. Jobs said, "Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life." What did he mean? He meant that most people spend their lives chasing approval, living the life their parents want, the life society expects, the life their peers think is normal. They climb ladders, only to discover the ladder was leaning against the wrong wall. Billionaires understand this truth better than anyone. They don't waste time trying to fit in. They don't let fear of judgment dictate their dreams. When Jobs built Apple, people thought he was crazy. Who would buy a personal computer? When Elon Musk risked his fortune on rockets, people laughed. When Oprah started speaking her truth on television, people told her she didn't have the right image. But here's the key. They didn't live someone else's script. They wrote their own. Let's bring this down to your life. How many hours do you spend scrolling on social media, comparing yourself to people you don't even know? How many times have you chosen a safe path just because it was expected of you? How often do you silence your own dreams because you're afraid of disappointing someone else? Jobs reminds us that's not living, that's existing. And existence without purpose is the greatest tragedy of all. Now, don't misunderstand. Living your own life doesn't mean being reckless or selfish. It means identifying what truly matters to you and having the courage to pursue it. It means building a business because you believe in it, not because your uncle thinks it's a good idea. It means choosing a partner, a career, a lifestyle that aligns with your values, not just the values of the crowd. And here's the ultimate irony. The moment you stop chasing approval and start living authentically, the world begins to respect you more. Why? Because authenticity is magnetic. People are drawn to those who are unapologetically themselves. So let me ask you right now, if today was your last day, would you be proud of the life you've lived? Or would you regret the chances you didn't take, the dreams you buried, the voice you silenced? Remember this: billionaires don't waste time living by someone else's rules. They know the clock is ticking and they refuse to waste it pretending to be something they're not. From this moment forward, let this quote be your mantra. Your time is limited. Don't waste it living someone else's life. Quote 2. If you're not stubborn, you'll give up too soon. And if you're not flexible, you'll pound your head against the wall and you won't see a different solution. Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, once said this line to describe the balancing act that every entrepreneur and really every human being must master. At first, it sounds contradictory. How can you be both stubborn and flexible at the same time? But if you look closer, you'll realize this is one of the secrets behind Amazon's incredible rise from a tiny online bookstore to a trillion-dollar empire. Let's break it down. Stubbornness is about holding on to your vision with unshakable determination. When Bezos launched Amazon in 1994, people thought the idea of selling books online was ridiculous. Why would anyone wait for shipping when they could walk to a bookstore? Newspapers mocked him. Investors doubted him. Even his own employees weren't sure if the company would last. But Bezos was stubborn about his core belief. The internet would change the way the world shops. That stubbornness allowed Amazon to survive the dot-com crash when thousands of other online businesses collapsed. But here's the twist. If Bezos had been stubborn about every detail, Amazon would have died long ago. That's where flexibility comes in. Bezos wasn't stuck on selling books forever. Once Amazon gained traction, he listened to customers, studied trends, and pivoted. Books became CDs, then DVDs, then electronics, then clothing, and eventually, everything. His stubbornness was in the vision to create the world's most customer-centric company. His flexibility was in the strategy, changing products, services, and even technology to make that vision possible. Here's where it applies to your life. Many people get this balance wrong. Some are too stubborn. They cling to an idea or method long after it stops working. They refuse to adapt, and eventually, they burn out or fail. Others are too flexible. They change directions every time things get tough, never staying long enough to see results. Both paths lead to mediocrity. The billionaire mindset is different. It's about knowing when to dig your heels in and when to pivot. Elon Musk is stubborn about creating a sustainable future, but flexible in how Tesla achieves that. Constantly innovating battery tech, designs, and software. Oprah was stubborn about building a career in media, but flexible enough to shift from talk shows to a global network. Ask yourself this: where in your life do you need more stubbornness? Maybe you've been doubting your dream and thinking of quitting. Maybe you need to stay stubborn about your bigger picture, no matter how hard it gets. And where do you need more flexibility? Maybe your method isn't working, and instead of pounding your head against the wall, you need to change your approach. This quote is about balance, and balance is power. Stubbornness gives you the grit to survive, and flexibility gives you the agility to thrive. Together, they create unstoppable momentum. Next time you face a roadblock, remember Bezos' words, be stubborn about your vision, but flexible with your methods. Quote 3, when something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor. Elon Musk. Elon Musk is no stranger to impossible odds. Think about this. When he sold his first company, Zip2, he could have retired young and lived comfortably for the rest of his life. But instead, he risked nearly everything he had, his money, his reputation, and even his peace of mind, on companies that experts said would never work. PayPal was ridiculed. SpaceX was called a joke. Tesla was predicted to fail. Musk himself said at one point, I thought Tesla would most likely fail, and SpaceX would most likely fail. Imagine that. The man who built multi-billion-dollar companies openly admitted he expected failure. But here's the catch. He didn't care. Why? Because the mission was more important than the odds. That's the lesson of this quote. When something truly matters to you, you pursue it even when the world says you can't. For Musk, putting humanity on Mars wasn't just a dream. It was a mission to secure the future of our species. Creating electric cars wasn't about profits. It was about saving the planet from fossil fuels. He wasn't chasing comfort. He was chasing purpose. Now, let's talk about odds for a second. Odds are nothing more than statistics, predictions made by people who don't share your vision. When Musk launched SpaceX, the odds of success were practically zero. The company failed 3 launches in a row. By the 4th, he was down to his last chance. If it failed, SpaceX was over. Most people would have quit. Most people would have said, the odds are too low. It's not worth the risk. But Musk kept going. And on that 4th launch, Falcon 1 reached orbit. That single moment changed history. What does this mean for you? It means stop looking at the odds and start looking at your why. If something is important enough, your dream business, your family's future, your health, your personal mission, you don't let odds decide your destiny. Let me put it this way. If you're in a burning building and your child is trapped inside, you don't stop to calculate the odds of survival. You run in. Why? Because the mission outweighs the risk. That's exactly how billionaires approach their visions. And here's the beautiful irony. When you act as if the odds don't matter, you shift them. Every time you take another shot, every time you stand up after a failure, you're bending probability in your favor. Musk's first 3 launches failed, but the 4th succeeded. Not because the odds magically changed, but because persistence forced the breakthrough. So ask yourself, what's your important enough? What dream, what mission, what purpose makes you willing to keep going even when people call you crazy, even when the numbers don't look good, even when failure seems inevitable? Because here's the truth. The odds will never favor you at the beginning. They didn't favor Musk. They didn't favor Bezos. They didn't favor Oprah. But they all had something greater than odds. They had conviction. So let this quote echo in your mind every time fear whispers in your ear. When something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor. Quote 4, the biggest risk is not taking any risk. Mark Zuckerberg. When Mark Zuckerberg said, the biggest risk is not taking any risk, he wasn't just dropping a clever one-liner for college graduates. He was describing the mindset that built Facebook into one of the most powerful companies in the world. Let's rewind for a moment. In 2004, Zuckerberg was just a Harvard student with an idea, a social platform where people could connect, share, and interact in real time. Back then, the internet was still in its awkward teenage years. MySpace existed, Friendster existed, but nobody thought social networking would become the cornerstone of human communication. Zuckerberg faced a choice. He could play it safe, finish his Harvard degree, land a stable job, and live a comfortable life. Or he could risk everything, drop out, face criticism, fight lawsuits, and chase a vision that might collapse in a year. He chose risk. And that single choice created Facebook, a company that now connects billions of people across the globe. Here's the truth. Risk is uncomfortable. Risk is scary. But avoiding risk is the fastest way to guarantee mediocrity. Think about it. Every great achievement in history came from someone willing to risk. Thomas Edison risked thousands of failures to create the light bulb. Elon Musk risked his entire PayPal fortune on Tesla and SpaceX. Oprah Winfrey risked public failure by speaking her truth on live television. And Zuckerberg risked his entire future to build a platform that people didn't believe in until it changed the world. Here's what most people miss. Playing it safe is actually the riskiest move of all. Why? Because the world changes, technology evolves, industries die, jobs disappear. If you stick to the safe path, you're actually standing on quicksand. Imagine someone in the 1990s who thought working at a video rental store was a safe career. Then Netflix showed up. Imagine someone who thought retail jobs would always be secure. Then Amazon changed shopping forever. Playing it safe didn't protect them, it doomed them. That's exactly what Zuckerberg meant. The biggest risk is not taking any risk, because in a world that moves this fast, standing still is falling behind. Now, I want you to bring this closer to home. How many times have you stayed in a job you hated because it felt safe? How many times have you kept an idea locked in your head because you were afraid to fail? How many times have you let fear of risk rob you of the life you really want? What billionaires understand is this: failure isn't the end, it's a stepping stone. Risk isn't a wall, it's a door. And every door you're too afraid to open is an opportunity you'll never see. Zuckerberg wasn't fearless, he was human, he worried, he doubted, he stumbled, but he didn't let fear of risk stop him. And because of that, he built something bigger than himself. So let this quote be your challenge. Don't just avoid risk, embrace it. Take the shot, start the business, speak your truth, learn the skill, make the move. Because the only guarantee in life is this: if you never take a risk, you'll never change your life. Repeat it until it sinks into your bones. The biggest risk is not taking any risk. Quote 5. It takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett, one of the most respected investors of all time, built his fortune not just on numbers, but on something far more valuable: trust. When Buffett says, it takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it, he's giving us one of the greatest warnings in the world of success. Money comes and goes, opportunities rise and fall, but your reputation, the way people see your character, your integrity, your word, that can make or break everything. Let's think about it. Buffett isn't just rich, he's trusted. When he invests in a company, the stock price rises instantly. Why? Because the world knows that if Buffett puts his name on something, it's solid. That kind of reputation doesn't come from flashy marketing, it comes from decades of consistency, honesty, and discipline. Now flip it. How many stories have you heard of billionaires, celebrities, or politicians who lost everything because of one bad decision? One scandal, one lie, one mistake. Years of building an empire can vanish in a heartbeat if your integrity collapses. Buffett's quote is a reminder that your reputation is your invisible currency. It determines the quality of your opportunities, the strength of your relationships, and the size of your influence. Here's the truth. People don't just buy your product or service, they buy you. They buy your character, your reliability, your word. That's why billionaires guard their reputation like it's gold. They know it's the one thing money can't instantly buy back once it's lost. Let's bring this closer to your life. Maybe you're not running a billion-dollar company, but your reputation matters just as much. It matters at your job. It matters in your friendships. It matters in your family. When people hear your name, what do they think? Do they think, that's someone I can count on? Or do they think, that's someone I need to be careful around? And here's the tricky part. Building a reputation takes time. It's the little things you do every day, showing up when you say you will, keeping your promises, doing the right thing even when nobody's watching. These choices stack up like bricks, slowly building a fortress of trust. But one bad move, one lie, one betrayal, one careless mistake can knock the whole thing down. Billionaires live by this truth. Buffett himself has turned down deals worth billions simply because he didn't trust the people involved. He would rather miss out on money than risk staining his reputation. That's how serious this is. So what can you do to protect your reputation? Be consistent. Don't just talk about your values, live them. Be transparent. When you make a mistake, own it. People respect honesty more than perfection. Be careful who you associate with. Your reputation is tied to the company you keep. At the end of the day, reputation is about one thing: character. You can fake success, you can fake confidence, but you can't fake integrity. It shows in your actions. So remember Buffett's words every time you're faced with a shortcut, a temptation, or a quick win that compromises your values. Ask yourself, is this 5 minutes of gain worth 20 years of trust? Because once your reputation is gone, rebuilding it is like trying to glue shattered glass. It will never look the same. Protect your reputation. Build it carefully. Guard it fiercely. Because, as Buffett reminds us, it takes 20 years to build and only 5 minutes to ruin. Quote 6. Surround yourself with only people who are going to lift you higher. Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey, a woman who rose from poverty and hardship to become one of the most influential billionaires in the world, has always credited much of her success to the company she keeps. When she says, surround yourself with only people who are going to lift you higher, she's not just giving advice. She's revealing one of the core secrets of long-term success. Think about it. No one achieves greatness alone. Every visionary, every billionaire, every history maker has had a circle of people who either pushed them higher or pulled them down. Oprah knew this truth early on. Growing up, she faced ridicule, rejection, and countless voices telling her she wasn't good enough. But she refused to let those voices define her. Instead, she aligned herself with mentors, colleagues, and friends who believed in her vision and encouraged her growth. Here's the lesson. Your environment shapes your destiny. Imagine two seeds planted in different soils. One seed is placed in fertile ground, surrounded by water, sunlight, and nourishment. The other is thrown into dry, cracked earth with no support. Which seed will grow? The same is true for us. When you surround yourself with negativity, doubt, and small-mindedness, your dreams suffocate. But when you surround yourself with encouragement, inspiration, and ambition, your dreams flourish. Billionaires understand this deeply. Elon Musk surrounds himself with engineers and visionaries who believe in pushing the limits of technology. Warren Buffett surrounds himself with business partners like Charlie Munger who challenge his thinking and keep him sharp. Oprah built a network of like-minded creators, producers, and leaders who pushed her beyond the boundaries of traditional media. Let's bring this into your life. Who are you surrounding yourself with right now? Are your friends pushing you higher or pulling you lower? Do they inspire you to work harder, dream bigger, and believe in yourself? Or do they drain your energy with gossip, complaints, and excuses? Here's a truth most people avoid. Sometimes success requires letting go. You may need to distance yourself from people who can't see your vision, not because you don't care about them, but because you can't allow their limitations to become your prison. Now, I'm not saying you should only surround yourself with billionaires or successful people. What I'm saying is, choose people with the right energy, people who clap when you win, people who challenge you when you get lazy, people who remind you of your potential when you forget it yourself. Practical steps? Start by evaluating your circle. Write down the names of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Then ask, do they lift me higher or do they hold me back? Remember Jim Rohn's famous principle, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If you want to level up your circle. Oprah's wisdom is simple but powerful. Dreams are fragile, especially in the beginning. They need protection, encouragement, and the right environment to grow. And if you choose the wrong company, even the brightest dream can wither away. So take her advice to heart. Surround yourself with only people who are going to lift you higher. Quote 7. Do not be embarrassed by your failures, learn from them, and start again. Richard Branson. Richard Branson, the adventurous billionaire founder of Virgin Group, has built companies in industries most entrepreneurs wouldn't dare touch. Airlines, music, telecom, space travel, even cola. And while many of those companies succeeded spectacularly, many failed. In fact, Branson's career is littered with failed ventures. But here's what separates him from the average person. He never saw failure as a reason to quit. He saw it as feedback. When he says, do not be embarrassed by your failures, learn from them and start again, he's giving us a truth that's easy to say but hard to live. Most of us hate failing. We see it as proof that we weren't good enough, smart enough, or talented enough. We attach shame to failure, and that shame keeps us stuck. But billionaires like Branson flip the script. They see failure not as an ending, but as a beginning, a chance to restart with more wisdom. Take Virgin Cola, for example. In the 1990s, Branson launched a soda company to compete with Coca-Cola and Pepsi. The idea seemed crazy, but Branson believed Virgin's brand could shake things up. It failed spectacularly. The company collapsed, and critics laughed at him. Did Branson quit entrepreneurship after that? He shrugged it off, learned his lessons, and doubled down on industries where Virgin could truly thrive. Here's the lesson. Embarrassment is optional. Failure is inevitable. Everyone fails, but not everyone grows. Think about Elon Musk. Tesla nearly went bankrupt in its early years. SpaceX failed 3 rocket launches in a row. Most CEOs would have been humiliated into quitting. Musk? He used the failures as data, as teachers, as steps toward eventual success, or think of Oprah Winfrey. Early in her career, she was fired from her job as a TV anchor because she was too emotional. Some people would have hidden in shame. Oprah took that so-called weakness and turned it into her greatest strength, authentic connection with her audience. That failure lit the path to her empire. Here's how you can apply this. The next time you fail, and you will, don't let embarrassment stop you. Instead, ask yourself 3 questions. 1. What did this teach me? 2. How can I improve next time? 3. What new opportunity does this open up? Failure is the tuition you pay for success. Every mistake is a lesson bought with experience. And the bigger the failure, the bigger the lesson. Here's the truth. People don't actually remember your failures as much as you think they do. They're too busy worrying about their own lives. The embarrassment you feel is mostly in your head. Branson knew this. That's why he could launch Virgin Cola, fail in front of the whole world, and still walk away smiling. Because he knew failure was just part of the game. So the next time life knocks you down, remember Branson's words. Do not be embarrassed by your failures. Learn from them. Start again. Because at the end of the day, failure isn't the opposite of success. It's the foundation of it. Quote 8. Price is what you pay. Value is what you get. Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett is known as the Oracle of Omaha, not just because he's one of the wealthiest men alive, but because his wisdom on money, business, and life is timeless. When he says, price is what you pay, value is what you get, he's teaching us a principle that goes way beyond investing. It applies to everything we do. At first glance, this sounds like a financial lesson. And yes, Buffett has used this principle to build his fortune. He doesn't just buy stocks because they're cheap. He buys businesses that are undervalued, companies that deliver far more value than their price suggests. That's how he turned Berkshire Hathaway into a powerhouse. But let's dig deeper. This isn't just about money, it's about mindset. Price is temporary, value is lasting. Most people get stuck chasing the cheapest option, the cheapest car, the cheapest food, the cheapest education, the cheapest opportunities. But billionaires like Buffett don't ask, what does it cost? They ask, what is it worth? Think about it. You can buy a cheap pair of shoes that fall apart in 6 months, or you can invest in a high-quality pair that lasts for years. Which one is really cheaper in the long run? You can buy fast food every day for a few bucks, but the value is poor because it costs you your health. You can pay more for nutritious food, and the value is energy, vitality, and longevity. This principle applies to people too. Some relationships cost you peace, time, and energy while giving you nothing in return. Others might require effort to build and maintain, but they bring you love, encouragement, and growth. Price versus value. Which are you choosing? Let's tie this back to Buffett's billionaire perspective. When he invests, he looks at a company's long-term potential, not just its current price tag. The world saw Coca-Cola as just a beverage company. Buffett saw the brand power, the global distribution, and the customer loyalty. Decades later, that investment has paid off billions of dollars in returns. Now, let's flip it. How often do we undervalue ourselves? How often do we sell our time, our skills, and our dreams for too cheap, just because we're scared to ask for more? Buffett's quote is also a reminder to know your own worth. Don't let others reduce your value to just a number. Practical application. When making decisions, don't just look at cost. Look at long-term value. Invest in education, books, skills, and mentors. The price might feel high, but the value compounds for life. Avoid cheap distractions. The price of mindless entertainment might be low, but the value is also low. It gives you nothing back. At the end of the day, this quote is about wisdom. It's about training your mind to look beyond the surface and ask, what am I really getting here? Buffett's wealth isn't just measured in dollars. It's measured in the wisdom he shares. And this principle, if applied, can change not just your finances, but your relationships, your health, and your entire future. So remember his words every time you face a choice. Price is what you pay. Value is what you get. Quote 9. The people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs, co-founder of Apple, wasn't just a businessman. He was a revolutionary. His vision transformed computers from clunky office machines into personal companions. He redefined music with the iPod, reshaped communication with the iPhone, and changed the way we consume entertainment with the iPad and iTunes. But none of it would have happened if he had played it safe. When Jobs said, "The people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do," he wasn't exaggerating. He was describing his own life and the lives of every dreamer who ever made history. Let's be honest. To the world, dreamers look crazy. Think about it. Before the iPhone, who would have believed people would carry tiny computers in their pockets, using them for everything from maps to music to money? Before Tesla, who would have believed electric cars could outperform luxury sports cars? Before Amazon, who would have believed people would buy books and later everything online instead of in stores? Every revolutionary idea looks insane until it works. Jobs' point is this: the difference between ordinary and extraordinary isn't intelligence, resources, or even luck. It's belief. The belief that you, yes you, can make a dent in the universe. That's what separates the people who change the world from the people who simply watch it change. But here's the catch. When you dare to believe in something big, people will doubt you. They'll laugh at you. They'll call you unrealistic, naive, even delusional. Jobs himself was fired from Apple, the very company he created, because people thought his vision was too extreme. Did he quit? He built Next and Pixar, proving his crazy ideas weren't crazy. They were ahead of their time. And when he returned to Apple, he turned it into the most valuable company in the world. Here's the lesson for your life. If your dreams don't sound crazy to someone, they're probably too small. The Wright brothers were crazy for thinking humans could fly. Gandhi was crazy for thinking he could free India without violence. Martin Luther King Jr. was crazy for dreaming of racial equality in America. Jobs was crazy for thinking he could put a dent in the universe with technology. And yet, their insanity became our reality. Ask yourself, what's your crazy dream? The one you're scared to say out loud because you're worried people will laugh. That dream might just be the seed of greatness. Practical application. Don't silence your crazy ideas. Nurture them. Don't wait for approval. History makers rarely get it. Don't fear being misunderstood. Being misunderstood is often the first sign you're onto something big. The truth is, safe ideas rarely change anything. It's the wild, audacious, impossible-sounding visions that move humanity forward. Steve Jobs left us with this reminder: it's not the cautious, the conformists, or the comfortable who change the world. It's the crazy ones. So the next time someone calls you crazy for chasing a dream, take it as a compliment. Because, as Jobs said, the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. Quote 10. If you double the number of experiments you do per year, you're going to double your inventiveness. Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon, is the richest proof that experimentation leads to innovation. Amazon didn't become the world's largest online retailer by luck. It became that way because Bezos and his team constantly tested, experimented, failed, and improved. When he says, if you double the number of experiments you do per year, you're going to double your inventiveness, he's revealing the secret fuel behind innovation. It's not about having one genius idea. It's about trying 1,000 little things until one of them changes the game. Think about Amazon today. Prime Delivery, Kindle, Alexa, AWS, Amazon Web Services. Each of these innovations wasn't guaranteed success. In fact, some were laughed at when they were first introduced. But Bezos didn't care about the laughs. He cared about the learning. The lesson: the more you try, the more you create. Most people fail because they stop after 1 or 2 attempts. They think, I tried once, it didn't work, so maybe it's not for me. But billionaires like Bezos flip that mindset. They know the more you experiment, the higher your chances of finding something extraordinary. Let's break this down. Imagine you're throwing darts at a board in the dark. If you throw 1 dart, chances are you'll miss. If you throw 10 darts, your odds improve. If you throw 100, one of them is bound to hit the bullseye. That's how experimentation works. The more you test, the greater your chances of success. Now, here's what's powerful. Experimentation doesn't just lead to success, it leads to inventiveness. Every failed attempt teaches you something new, sparks a fresh idea, and expands your imagination. Bezos didn't invent AWS by accident. Amazon had to build huge computing systems for its own needs, and through trial and error, they realized they could sell that infrastructure to others. That single experiment turned into a $1 trillion industry. Here's how you can apply this in your life. Stop waiting for the perfect idea. Start testing the imperfect ones. See failure as feedback, not finality. Every failed experiment is simply data. Build a habit of curiosity. Ask, what if? What if I tried this? What if I approached it differently? Most people fear wasting time and energy on failed attempts. Bezos sees it differently. The only wasted time is the time you spend not trying. And here's the beauty of this quote. Experimentation doesn't just apply to billion-dollar businesses. It applies to your personal growth too. Want to get fit? Try different workouts until you find one you love. Want to build wealth? Test different side hustles, investments, or skills until one clicks. Want to find your passion? Experiment with hobbies, careers, and experiences until something lights your fire. The truth is, life is one big experiment. Those who embrace it grow. Those who resist it stagnate. Bezos bet on experimentation and turned a small online bookstore into the world's most valuable company. Imagine what could happen if you started experimenting in your own life, doubling your attempts, doubling your creativity, and doubling your inventiveness. Remember his words. If you double the number of experiments you do per year, you're going to double your inventiveness. So, my friend, we've just walked through 10 powerful quotes that billionaires live by. And if you really think about it, these weren't just quotes, they were blueprints. Blueprints for building not just wealth, but resilience, vision, integrity, and courage. Let's pause and reflect. Elon Musk taught us to see failure not as a dead end, but as a stepping stone. Jeff Bezos reminded us to experiment relentlessly. Warren Buffett warned us to guard our reputation and focus on value, not just price. Oprah showed us the importance of surrounding ourselves with people who lift us higher. Steve Jobs inspired us to embrace our crazy dreams, and Richard Branson encouraged us never to be ashamed of failure, but to use it as fuel to start again. What do all these lessons have in common? They're not about luck. They're not about being born rich. They're about mindset. The mindset to think differently, to endure when others quit, to rise when others fall, and to dream when others doubt. And here's the truth. You don't need to be a billionaire to live by these quotes. You don't need billions in the bank to protect your reputation, to surround yourself with the right people, to keep experimenting, or to believe in your crazy dreams. You can start today. You can start right now. Every billionaire you admire was once just a regular person with nothing but belief, determination, and a vision. The only difference is they acted on it. They lived by these principles day after day, choice after choice, until success was no longer an option, but an outcome. Now I want to turn this back on you. What will your story be? Will you let fear of failure hold you back? Or will you see failure as a stepping stone? Will you let the wrong people drain your energy? Or will you choose those who lift you higher? Will you play it safe? Or will you dare to be crazy enough to change the world in your own way? Your future is being written every single day by the choices you make. And just like Musk, Bezos, Buffett, Oprah, Jobs, and Branson, you can choose to live by principles that push you toward greatness. Here's my challenge for you. Pick just one of these quotes and apply it to your life starting today. Just one. Don't overwhelm yourself trying to change everything at once. Start small. Take that one principle, live it, and watch how it begins to transform your mindset, your results, and your future. And remember this, success isn't built overnight. It's built in the quiet hours, the daily decisions, the invisible sacrifices no one sees. But years from now, those choices will speak for you louder than words. So, my friend, if these words touched your heart, if they sparked something inside you, if they reminded you that you are capable of more than you've been settling for, then don't let this moment fade. Hit that subscribe button, smash that like button, and join this community of dreamers, doers, and future history makers. Because here, we don't just talk about success, we build it together. This is more than a channel. It's a movement, and you, yes, you are a part of it. So let's rise, let's dream bigger, let's fail forward, and let's chase the impossible. Because, as Steve Jobs said, the crazy ones are the ones who change the world, and you, my friend, are crazy enough to do it.